Welcome to Bradford and Brooks with your host, Margie Bradford and Jim Brooks, live on WBRT here in downtown Bardstown. The show is sponsored by Springview Hospital in Lebanon. Thank you for listening to 97.1 FM, 1320 AM, and 94.9 FM in Lebanon. Bradford and Brooks, a civil discourse of discussion where community involvement is encouraged. Bradford and Brooks is on.
Good morning, Bardstown and Nelson County. Welcome to Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you on this rainy, cold February 2nd morning. It's hard to believe it's February already, Margie.
I know. Time. Where does the time go, Jim?
Well, I will tell you, if we could have the weather we had yesterday for the rest of February, I'd be quite happy with that.
You and me too, kiddo.
But you know, when I had the dog out last night, it was still above 50 outside, but the wind, you could feel the winter cold
Right.
in the breeze when it would kick up. So,
This has been a schizophrenic start to winter.
yeah,
Warm one day and freezing the next.
yeah, and then ice storm warning
Right, exactly.
for the next couple days. So
And already 2 snows, which it disappeared the next day. So
right. Well, one thing about Nelson Fiscal Court meetings is that they do give a good report on the amount of salt that each snowfall takes.
Oh,
And-
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. So that and it's amazing how much it takes, but you have to remember that the county can't afford to salt all of every road.
Right.
So they plow the best they can. But anyway, let's not. We'll talk about road conditions and snow clearing in a little bit later. Margie, let's welcome our studio guest, a guy that's familiar to us both, and Mr. Tim Hutchins. And Tim is a Republican candidate seeking the party's nomination for Nelson County Judge Executive. Good morning, Tim.
Morning, Tim.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on, and county. You're no stranger to county government.
No, I've been around a day or two. Yeah.
How many years did you serve as judge executive? I'm a little ahead of myself.
Yeah, a little
Magistrate.
ahead of you, getting the cart before the horse. 17 years as magistrate of the 4th District.
Well, and you've seen a lot of growth in the county and a lot of change.
We've had a tremendous amount of growth in, of course, the district that I live in, and then that's one of the fastest growing districts at the same time. But
Right.
I think we're up to about, 48,000 population in the county at this point, or close to that.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, I'm kind of wondering, I know that the 4th is one of the growing districts, and I wonder how whenever they get around to redistricting, how the 4th district, the magisterial district, is going to change. I'm assuming it will get a little bit smaller because of the population change, but I don't know. That process is kind of like making sausage. It's not something you actually probably want to see, but it gets done.
I think they're going to do that by statute. I think it's supposed to be done this year, but
Right.
because of the COVID and when they did the census, they're prolonging it and going to do it next year, is what I was told. And I'm not 100% sure of that. But,
Right.
So when I become judge, I'm gonna have to be involved in that.
Right. Well, tell me, you're running for judge. You've run a time or two before, I know, but this is an open seat. Judge Watts is not going to run again, and you and 2 other Republicans have thrown your hats in the ring. And then on the Democratic side, there's a single candidate. So you've got your work cut out for you for the May primary. Just tell our listeners, if they don't know Tim Hutchins, what sets you apart, you think, from the other candidates?
Well, I've been born and raised in Nelson County and lived here my entire life, which is the other 2 candidates. I think Mr. Gentry was born and raised here, and I think Don Thrasher moved in here from another state at some point. I don't know how many years ago it's been. So that's one thing different. And then I'm not going to criticize, I consider Billy Gentry, tell you right out of the gate, that he's a friend of mine. I've known him for a long time, and I've got to know Don Thrasher for the last 6 months, and I consider him a friend of mine. I don't have any problem with Don. And I'll try to be as positive as I can. But what sets me apart, I was on the fiscal court for 17 years, and then, so I know the government, how it works, and the road departments, landfill, jail, ambulance. I've been deeply involved in a lot of that for years, and I was about on every committee that they had on the court. I just did not go to fiscal court meetings twice a month like some people in the public think that's what you do. But
right.
If you want to get involved and be what I call a very good public servant, and I feel like I did, and I was involved in a lot of committees. And so I know how the government and the fiscal court works. Also, what sets me apart, I've been involved in the community, just about every church in the county, because I belong to St. Gregory's, private functions, fundraisers, recreation. I coached for 15 years, Little League, AAU, middle school basketball, civic functions, and I've been involved in the county and private foundations and, the Republican Party. I've been to so many of their events over the last 15 years, I can't name them all. And so I've been there and done it and supported a lot of what I call dedicated Republicans over the years. And being a self-employed businessman, I've been in business myself for around 40 years. I run a construction company. Run the Handy Food Mart. We've been open for 50 years. Employed a lot of people, probably hundreds of employees over the years I've had with their families and been involved with. And so, I've been around a long time, and I think that's what sets me apart from the other two. And just being involved in the community all my life. And basically anybody that knocks on the doors, donations or whatever, anybody needs help, private foundations and whatever, we try to be there and do it. So, I've been parts of the Knights of Columbus, the NRA, the Wounded Warriors Foundation, the Food for the Poor Foundation, a lot of these other private organizations. I've been involved in that my entire life too. I'm going to say my entire life, but most of my life. So, so I think that sets me apart tremendously from the other two candidates.
Tim, what do you see as the three biggest challenges for Nelson County in the next 20 years?
Well, the growth pattern, I think, is a lot of it, there's no doubt. Everybody's heard about the industrial parks are being filled up, and we've got the Glendale battery facility coming down there, which is less than an hour drive from Nelson County. So anybody that keeps up with that, and I've talked to Kim Houston, the NCDA director, and of course the fiscal court, they've discussed it in the city, is we need another industrial park to keep our satellite factories going to be moving in here, there's no doubt about it, plus other factories. In hand, I think we'd rather have people move in the county to pay taxes, local taxes, and be a part of our county and community and want to live here and be a part of it. So then you've got the residential growth at the same time, which hopefully you get enough tax base to support that. There's people that talked about over the years, I think I've told Jim this before, like subdivisions. But if you get up in, destroying farmland, and another thing sets me apart too, I was a farmer my entire life. I know the other two candidates cannot say that. I farmed since I was a kid up till just a few years ago, raising tobacco and hogs and cattle, and I farmed my entire life. Still got a brother that farms, and our whole family farmed and farmed and farmed. So I've been part of that community forever. So some of the farmers feel like when you get subdivisions that you're destroying farmland, and that's a fact in a certain case. But when you get up in an airplane and fly around the county, there's a lot of land, undisturbed land in this county. So I think putting in good, correct subdivisions that does not destroy all the farmland with, cutting them all up, I think it's important. And then our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, they can live here, move here when they graduate. So we want to provide them good paying jobs and have a nice community to live in. And you got the recreation parks and so on. So I think that's, just the quality of life, which that's a part of. I think that's probably the most important thing that people see. I've talked about the drug problem, and I've talked to Raymond about it, and I want to sit down and get with all the different foundations and groups and prosecutors and sit down and come up with a better plan, hopefully, that we can disguise and come up and build a better plan to help solve some of these drug problems.
Right.
The third thing, you say, I think, and that's part of, I think, my first equation is the infrastructure as far as sewer and water, but the roads and the little bypass we're going to build, we need to continue to build the northern bypass and try to get the southern bypass all the way to Bluegrass Parkway, which would help the traffic. And hopefully we can get some more what I call cut-through roads, little shortcut streets, disconnectors and things throughout the county to help solve some of what I call the traffic problems scattered throughout. So
right. Well, Tim, on thinking about infrastructure, this came to light during some of the discussions with the Planning Commission on the comprehensive plan, and actually in some of the school discussions too. There's potential for growth in areas of the county, but what limits that growth is the lack of sewer infrastructure.
Sewer, that's correct.
And do you think county government what role can county government play, or would you like to see, or believe it should play in that? Because like the line that goes out to Corman's Crossing spurred so much development out there, but it wasn't funded by any government entity. That was private development.
That was private money. Then they've got reimbursement agreements, which I was involved in some of that when that happened. And then it's a force main, but you're limited what you can do in a force main. In some cases you can't, do anything else besides a force main. So you got to find out where you want to put your pump stations and wet wells and all that. Now, when I was on the court, we passed what they call 201 plan, and Jim Lameau was a county engineer at the time, and our goal was to, when we brought him from the landfill to the road department as an engineer, to help push the 201 sewer plan countywide. And I'll go on record, when they passed the Mallard's Landing out there on Louisville Road, that's your way. If you go back and look at the history, the fiscal court turned down, the Renaissance group out of Louisville was going to put a nice development there, and patio homes and so on, and they was going to run the sewer line at their own expense all the way out Louisville Road. Fiscal court turned them down twice. I voted in favor of it. Later on, local developers bought it. Renaissance Group decided, the planning zoning, let me go back, planning zoning actually passed it twice. Fiscal court turned it down, which is kind of unusual, and the Renaissance Group just backed up and then didn't do anything, and had two local developers end up buying it, and the fiscal court passed it the third time without sewer. Okay? So that kind of, in my opinion, kind of just diluted our 201 plan right there. And you never heard much about sewer, and I was still on fiscal court at the time. You never heard much about the sewers going to be installed throughout the county much after that.
Right.
When you create the 201 plan in the sewer, there's a lot of state money, and Dan Kelly was on there at the time, and back in the day when I was talking to him, and there was a lot of state grants and state money the state was pushing to merge, and we ran that line all the way to Bloomfield, if you remember. Right. And helped the city of Bloomfield bring their sewer into Bardstown, and the fiscal court had to be involved in it, the city of Bardstown had to be involved in it. So the state at that time, and I feel like it's probably even stronger, they want more people pulling together and is forming these sewer districts. So you just got to have, you just got to get it done. You got to get it there and make sure it happens and push for it, and it takes a lot of money. So there's that's just an opportunity you got to seize on, and you got to, you can't sit around and think things are going to come. You got to make things happen. So you got to have true leadership. You got the Republican leadership in about every elected position in the county. I think every state and federal position right now is held by Republicans in this county. I think that's important.
In the county?
Right, as far as state and federal. I mean, you can name them all. You got Brett Guthrie.
Oh, I thought you were talking about local.
Not local, but the ones that we can go after the money is what I'm getting at. The federal monies and state monies. So when you don't have Republican leadership on the local level to go after that, and I mean, human nature, sooner or later they say, everybody gets along, and they do in most cases. But they know behind the scenes, when what's the old word, they say politics, when you downgrade and in private meetings and open sessions, and you downgrade or criticize the elected officials in the other party, and sometimes they don't bring the money home. And I mean, I think that's a fact, and that's just the way, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that happens. So that's just where I'm at. I just think there's opportunity that we can seize on and get more money. I think I told you last time, maybe, I don't know if I told you that last time, and maybe it was another interview, that I think we're in a position now that we can hire a grant writer, because, you've got the CAECO and different state organizations that you work through to help you get grants, but everybody's after that same pile of money.
Right,
and if you have a private person that's very knowledgeable, knows how to do that, and I'm not saying pay them to do that only, you can use them in other positions in the county, but there's opportunities to get out there, and we've done that on the private side also.
Right.
In fundraisers I've been involved in, there's usually monies out there that private foundations, government monies, federal monies, state monies, tax monies that you can seize on it, but you got to have the right contacts. So I think that's an opportunity to do, and I think it will well pay for a salary for somebody like that. It wouldn't cost taxpayers a dime.
Right. Well, we've been talking infrastructure and the need for infrastructure, water and sewer. The fiscal court, the city of Bardstown and North Nelson recently entered into agreements to basically they'll build a water main, 24-inch water main from, I guess, out by Four Roses, where Louisville Water main ends, from there into Bardstown.
Well, I'm very knowledgeable of that, Jim, because Joe Livers was on the North Nelson Water District. He's passed away now, and Steve Algar was the manager of North Nelson Water District, and I was representing North Nelson Water District as 4th District Master, and I was very involved in appointing people there and meeting with them and getting things done. Steve Algar, at the time, the manager, Joe Livers, and myself met the Louisville Water Company in Louisville. They was interested in bringing water out to Nelson County. They're begging for customers, to be honest, because they lost a lot of industry in Louisville there at one time.
Right.
If you go back, every time that there's an elected official in the city of Bardstown, and most of them, they always say we need to come up with another water source. I've heard that my entire life since I was little. So we know that if there's a drought, possibility of a drought, that we could be suffering. So time goes on. We met down there, and we put a new tank down there close to Bernheim. North Nelson did, and they ran the water line all the way to Four Roses. And North Nelson, the district, which is the 4th district, they can be served entirely by Louisville Water if they just turn off a few valves. And I think about 80% of them get it every day. I met with Mr. Hamilton at the city, and I think Mr. Heaton was the mayor at the time, and met and encouraged them to jump on this and get it done at the same time. They've upgraded the line. I think we put a 16-inch main in, and we're going to upgrade it to a 24 or 36-inch main, put a couple inline pumps, and they could get 3 million gallons a day. So we started that process, and I was a big part of that, and they decided not to do it at the time. They wanted, I'm not putting words in Mr. Hamlin. Of course, he's passed away, and he was a friend of mine. He said the city needed to be control of the water. They didn't want to give up the control. So they decided not to do it at the time. Thank goodness now later, and we started that process, thank goodness, 12, 13 years ago, or how long it's been. It was 2013, I think. So it's been about, say, 10, 12 years ago. And we got that line down to Four Roses because it would cost many more millions to do it now. And probably, and I'm really tickled that the fiscal court and the city and North Nelson got this done and it's approved, and it's probably one of the biggest projects to help this county in the next 50 years in my lifetime, I think, if people really look at it. So, and then that, you're talking about helping in the industry and bringing more jobs in. I mean, it's just great. I mean, it's really a good deal. So Steve Algar, I'm going to give Steve Algar, North Nelson, Joe Livers, and I'll take a little bit of credit for getting that process started about, 10, 12 years ago.
Well, I think even when Governor Beshear was here handing out the big checks, he was even talking about how that...
he didn't mention my name, did he?
No, he didn't.
No.
But he did talk about how the fact that this project is happening is the type of cooperation you really need between government agencies and the city and county and the water company, and it's an example.
Yes, it is.
It really is a good example for the rest of the state, really.
That's correct.
All right, and you've given us a little bit about your political background. There's been I know the Gazette got a letter.
Gazette?
Yeah,
What's
Nelson
the
County
Gazette?
Gazette.
Who is that? Do you know who that is?
Well,
Our star
it
journalist
made a
over
reference. It made a reference to two of the Republican candidates, yourself being one of them, as Johnny-come-latelys, or you switch parties. And now I switched parties 2 years ago from a Democrat to a Republican, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. You know.
Well, I think it had to do with filing to run for office.
Right.
Not changing parties.
Right. But anyway, but the inference was that you were one of the ones who switched.
Are you talking about the letter that was written to your Gazette?
Yeah. Well, I think it also appeared in
The Standard?
in Standard by
I'm not
Richard
sure
Hardin.
it was, yeah. Okay.
Richard Hardin's letter.
Oh, yeah.
So you want me to respond to that? Is that
Well,
what you're
if you-
asking me? Well, I'm going to tell you what I think about it. Richard Hardin helped me in my last campaign somewhat. Just to be clear, that was, 7 years ago now? Since then, we haven't, I've seen him, run into him. He told me just a few months ago he would help me if I'm ready to run for county judge. Let him know he would help me and be on my side. Quote, probably 3 or 4 times. When we did the reorganization of the Republican Party back in, June, the Nelson County local party, he was there and he told me the same thing. I filed for the judge's race January the 8th, I think it was, and then Mr. Hardin had a letter in the paper that next Wednesday criticizing me and Billy Gentry, I'm assuming, when he said 2 Republican candidates for being pro-taxes, pro-gun control, and pro-abortion. Now, I don't know exactly if that's the way it was quoted, but that's the way I took it. Well, I did some research since then. I left the Democratic Party in 2009. I became an independent. Basically, they left me, but I switched parties to independent. And going back for several reasons. I did not want to switch parties to the Republican Party, which I was encouraged to do.
Right.
People asked me to do, even though I supported a lot of them, when I ran against Dean the first time. I think it looks bad. I think when you run and switch parties at the last minute just to run for a race, I think it's negative. It looks bad and people tell me this all the time. So I chose not to do that. I chose to run as an independent. So I left the party in 2009. For Richard Hardin to make the comments that he made, he didn't leave the party till 2013. He was a registered Democrat until 2013. So for him to write that letter the way he wrote it and trying to insinuate that basically that just because of Democratic platform, which it does, and that's one reason I did leave the Democratic thing, because that's their platform, pro-abortion and more gun control and maybe more taxes. I mean, I can debate that all day long. So for him to insinuate that towards me, I don't know about Mr. Gentry. He can talk about him all day long. He can defend himself. But I've never heard the word gun rights come up in a fiscal court meeting in my entire career about putting gun control on anybody locally. My record approved that Dean wanted to raise taxes, I think, once or twice higher than I voted and pressured to keep them down. And I'm not criticizing Dean because we kept the tax rate as low as possible, him and the fiscal court for years. We could have took the 4% growth many years. We did not do. Look at the record. It's a fact. And then the pro-abortion thing, and you go back and look at my record, any time I've had an interview, I'm 100% against any abortion, period. I made that statement clear as a crystal. And for him to put that article in that letter the way he wrote it, it not only it was wrong, it was wrong. Do you know what the definition of hypocrite is? It's somebody that indulges in hypocrisy. And hypocrisy is a person claiming to have moral standards or beliefs, but his own behavior does not, and it does the opposite. So when a guy writes a letter like that was a former Democrat in 2013 when he changed parties, after I did, I think it looks pretty bad on him. So he can defend his own self, and he wrote another letter to you defending it again. That's the facts. He can talk about it all day he wants, but those 3 things they attacked me on was 100% wrong and false.
All right, and I think we had a letter or two to the editor in your defense, too. on the Gazette.
There's one of the girls I went to church with down there, and she wrote that letter because I've been heavily involved in the community and the church and all the churches, and put my time, sweat, and blood and money out there. And for anybody to say that, it's anyway, it's just wrong. So anyway, I want to get that out. I'm glad you asked me that.
Well, Tim, there's a lot of potential for growth in the next 4 to 8 years with this battery plant in Hardin County. What's one of the most important things? Of course, you see, if you're elected judge executive, what's the top of your agenda look like? Is it and for economic development? What are the first things we need to get our ducks we need to get in a row?
Well, that's what I just talked to Margie. That last question earlier was about you've got to have the industrial park, because Wilson Park, I think, maybe has one more lot not really laid out real good, and then the Nelson County Park out there, which I helped start back when I was on the fiscal court, and the fiscal court decided to do that, which proved to be a good project. We got to, when they want to come here, we got to have some land, because getting I-2 or I-1 zoning is not easy. Mm-hmm. So you got to find the land at a fair price, and of course land prices are going through the roof, and inflation's going through the roof, and it's a tough time to develop. It's a tough time to put in sewer, water, anything, because the prices are just through the roof. So you really got to sit down and try to see how efficient you can be as doing that, and I would think with the state, state's in good financial shape, and part of it is because of a lot of this, debt that the feds got, and passing on to the state. It helps the state, but at the end of the day, it hurts the feds, in my opinion. But they do have a lot of money in their coffers at the state level right now, so, we've got to be there to get it. You got to have the right leadership to get it. But if it's not, because there's going to be, there's 120 counties in the state of Kentucky, and I say the other 119 is trying to get every little penny they can get. So we got to be there and ready to go. So I think getting the park ready, and then, like I say, the sewer and the water lines there also, and of course the streets, blacktop and everything.
Right, and I remember, the discussions about the development of the existing County Industrial Park. Getting that infrastructure in place is not cheap. No, it's a significant investment.
Yeah, it's expensive, and you've got to make sure when you've got everybody, because you're going to hear this, and I've heard it for years. Why do you help the industries come in? They're making money. These companies are making money, and you're giving them this land at a half-price rate or cheap rate and whatever. So you say, well, let's get out of it. Let's don't do it. But then you're going to be criticized because how come you're not bringing jobs in the county? Now, the timing is a little bit different right now because there's a lot of jobs and you don't have enough people.
Right.
It's a little bit unusual, and part of it's because of this pandemic. I've seen a report today, how many people's left the workforce.
Right.
It really boggles your mind about how many people's actually retired, left the workforce, and decided they can live at home with one income, and the women that's raising the kids, and the time they paid their child care and the gas and the car, they have taken a lot of them out of the workforce. So, but we've got over 1,000 students, probably a little bit over 1,000 in our 4 high schools here that graduate every year. And the time you figure that cycle every so many years, that's a lot of bodies. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure we've got good jobs for them. I don't want them to have to move to New York or whatever. And hopefully we can get some more administrative jobs and what I call, maybe it's not as much as industrial jobs, but administrative jobs too. So we can kind of bring those people in, the tech jobs and things like that. So it's just an important part of it. So you just got to try to get a fine line there, because you're going to get criticized on both sides. And so how much money do you give back to the factories? But you got 119 other counties going to try to get them.
That's right.
Or states, as far as that goes.
Tim, you talked about keeping taxes down and voting against tax increases every time. I mean,
No. I didn't say every time. No.
All right.
Let me correct that. I said that you're allowed a 4% growth without a recall. I've said there was a couple times, 2 or 3 times that they proposed to raise them a little higher than I wanted, and we still took some of the growth. We never did.
You did.
If you take your growth versus other, it's a confusing scenario to some people.
You did take your 4% then.
No, we never took the whole 4% in very many years. We took a gain, but it wasn't a full part of it. And I'm not criticizing the court because our court is a pretty conservative court on the tax base.
Well, I mean,
but you got to have the tax base.
The 4% increase in revenue was voted on by the legislature as a floor, not a ceiling. I mean, it was
that was the intent.
Intended to compensate for the cost of inflation.
That's correct. Yes.
So
the cost of inflation now is about, inflation is around 7 to 8%, I think, and that's on paper, and it's probably more like if you run a business like I do at the store every day, I'm going to tell you right now, it is getting out of control, and it's the worst I've ever seen in my lifetime. And when you see these reports about 6, 7, 8%, in my opinion, it's more like 12, 14, 15%. So when you get this tax base coming in, it's going to be a big deal. Go ahead and finish your question. I know what you're going after.
No, my question is that the county's growing, and you have different expenses, and the cost of doing business as the fiscal court is going up. I mean, would you be open to raising more revenue? If it calls for it, raising more revenue, say like raising the occupational tax or what? I mean, are you you cognizant of that?
I've never said in my whole life that I'm going to try to cut taxes and get rid of taxes and all that. I'd say you got to have efficient taxes. When I say conservative, efficient government. And when you take that 4% or 3% or whatever it is, that's still a growth on, because you got a lot of the other growth. Because when you take all your new appraisals and you just look at the value of the county, I think Dean put out a report about that a while back. So you still got so much of your growth coming in, but it is tough right there because you need more police, you need more ambulances,
right.
You need more fire, and your essential services. You're going back to. I think Mr. Hardin's letter, baby, he said, taxes, and then I think some of them are some mention. I'm not sure. Well, I'm not going to say about who wrote it, but your essential services, when it comes to your ambulance, when you call 911 and you expect somebody to be there, and you got a family or friend or a child, somebody that could be dying, I think you don't even care about the money. So.
No.
You try to get a fine line there and be as efficient as you can. So I'm not saying you're going to go in there, and I'm not going to ever say I'm going to go in and say I'm going to cut everybody's taxes. Now, I do think there's probably, I'm not saying they're wasting a ton of money, but one of my goals is when I get in is get every department, every committee together, and we're going to go through every ordinance and every policy and every regulation we got and see if we can simplify them, clean them up, get rid of the stuff we don't need, because anytime you pass stuff and you got to go back when most people don't do it, or we made a mistake, we should never passed it, and see where there's any excess or waste or maybe too much equipment or maybe not the right type of equipment, or subcontract out things, just like the snow removal. And I'm not sure, I haven't got the budget or I haven't got all the policies, what they've done the last 10 years. We had a few contractors that helped us take care of some county roads. Because when you have a disaster like a natural, like maybe could come up here, the county government can't afford to have 40 people sitting on the payroll all the time when you only got like 15. So you can contract a lot of this stuff out cheaper when it's just at a part-time basis, So that's just, it's a whole lot cheaper because you got all your overhead and you got all these employees and you got your retirement funds and all that. So, I mean, that's the way I want to operate.
And now, it seemed like in the last election cycle, a lot of talk was about a multi-purpose indoor sports facility. What's your opinion on that, and how would you tackle that? I mean, evidently, there are a lot of people in the county that think that, but no one has come up with a way to pay for it and maintain it.
Right. Well, the mayor, what I was studied. I think the city is having some kind of a study done now. We did it when I was on the fiscal court. The YMCA got involved a little bit and tried to come up with a proposal. 1993, 94, around 95, 96 when we built the park out there, which we call Dean Watts Park now. We spent a lot of money out there in local tax dollars and got a nice recreation facility. City's done a lot of their stuff downtown. Now, the adult recreation is probably, less expensive. I mean, we don't have as much for the adults. And as we get older, and traditionally, when you hear people out in the county versus in the city, I've heard this for many years, we don't need all that. We don't want all that. We don't want to raise taxes. We don't want indoor pools. And you get into city limits, and some of the older people out in the county, We love to have an indoor pool where we can exercise. And the exercise in the last few years, say 10 years, people's more conscientious. I think walking, exercise, you can just see it. We'll just look at the fitness centers we've got we used to not have. I don't want to go in competition with private business at all. But I do think a covered pool that could be done by private money, and I know how to raise private money. I've done it many times. Private foundations, industries, get your local taxes involved somewhat, the cities involved, all the cities involved, and the school districts, hopefully, because they got these swim teams.
Yeah.
So if you pull all those resources together, and at the end of the day, the cost of it, because we did a study on it with Marion County, same as others, once you build it, the cost is tremendous. But you are going to have some fees coming in, and people paying their fees and dues and all that. I don't have that data right now, but I would be inclined to study it, put my heart and soul behind it, and I think we could raise the money without raising any taxes. I'm not going to go out there and say I'm going to raise taxes to support that. I will not do that. But I think it can be done without doing that. That's what I think. There's a lot of private money out there.
Interesting.
And I probably could show you some of them, but I'm not going to do it because I've already contacted some of them.
Well, Tim,
I'm not going to put anybody under the bus yet.
we have a severe weather event coming late this week.
Right.
And I know on social media, the county took quite a bit of heat for how well the crews did clearing roads. And some of that criticism wasn't deserved because people don't always understand if a road is a state road
right.
or a county road. And the county has limited resources anyway.
Right.
Just so many people and so much equipment. And the state's priority is always first the Bluegrass Parkway, right?
Well,
General.
I see some of the comments on some of these posts or whatever, and I think Mr. Thrasher was involved in some of that. And I don't know. I was out of town last week when that snowstorm hit, but there's 365 miles of county roads in the county. You take from New Haven all the way to Chapin, there's a lot of county roads. And I'm going to tell you, when I was on the court, now you got a lot more subdivisions and things too, and there's a whole lot to take care of. And if you want to salt those roads heavily, end to end to end, we'd have to raise our taxes. That's for sure, because you wouldn't have enough cash flow to do it when you have these major storms. We've already had 2 or 3 this year, and usually some winters you have 1 or 2, but it takes a lot. And I don't even know what salt costs a ton, and even getting the supply is one thing. Well, we did it when I was on the court, and Bobby Hamilton and Jim Lamoe, and I'm sure Brad does it. They would mix salt and sand and try to get on the roads where you get traction and get a little salt, and especially do the curves and all that. And when you get in, because you're going slower, I mean, you should be going slower on the county roads. I'm not saying they do. Then you get out on the state roads. Well, some criticism was, and I think what I've seen the county crews overall have done a good job personally. And the state roads I've seen have done a pretty good job. Now, depends on when it hits, when it freezes, when it don't freeze. Sometimes the salt don't take effect till the sun comes out.
Right.
But priority-wise, this is what they call District 4 here of the state. I think it's District 4. And you can go in and look at their site and tell you their priority by, I mean, they're mandated, but Bluegrass Parkway is, a lot of these counties surrounding adjoining counties don't have Bluegrass Parkway that we have to take care of, or this state that they have to take care of. There was some comment about Judge Watch. The county judge gets a stipend from the state. When they get that money from the state every year to take care of the roads, the maintenance money, and there's a stipend goes to the county judge. It's always been like that. I guess it's a statute or whatever, and he's supposed to help make sure the state roads. And the county crews, and when I was on there, I'm sure they still do it, the county crews, when they go from county road to county road, they would help plow the state roads, which makes common sense.
Sure.
And, you're going to miss some, I'm sure, and in some parts of the county, you take as big as this county is, some parts of the counties, you take just a few miles, you get more snow, more ice than the other part. You just see it. So, but the Bluegrass Parkway, for sure, they have to do it, and it's mandated. And I'm pretty sure the 245, New Haven Road, and Highway 62, and Louisville Road is the next 3 or 4 main priority roads. They've got to get those done. That's just the way it's set up. And then they go to the next roads. And, again, do you want to provide services when people want to move? The old saying is, I don't want to live in the city, I want to live in the county because I don't want to deal with all the regulations. But you get people moving in the county, you can't get all the services because you're county-based. So, the private citizens got to decide that. If they want more services, do they want more taxes or do they not want more taxes? So I think overall they're doing a pretty good job. I'm sure there's always a spot that you can do better, and if somebody somebody might get sick. You don't know. Maybe a truck driver. Maybe they blew a tire out. How would you like to be plowing the road down 62 about 2 weeks ago, and you had about 10, 15, 20 cars off the road? The plows can't get through.
Right.
I mean, they're in the same position. It's easy. Yeah. It's easier said than done. And that reason I'm saying that separates me from these other two counties, because I've been there and I've done it and I see it and I know how to do it.
Right. Tim, we're getting down to the wire here, but
can we extend it by another hour?
Well, that would have to be on your dime, I think. We'll talk about that later. Tim, the fiscal court agreed to basically take over the Humane Society's efforts with the animal control, with the animal control, and agreed to hire a second animal control officer and to fund the part-time positions, for adoptions and things at the animal shelter. And there was some discussion and some pushback, I think, with fiscal court.
Right.
It wasn't about it, but clearly the Humane Society can't continue it.
Right.
So, I guess the discussion really focused on what level of service, should the county provide for animal control.
Well, I was at a couple of fiscal court meetings, and I don't have all the information. I haven't asked for it yet, and I guess I'll talk to the judge and get the information about the policies and things.
Right.
I had to base my answer on what I've seen and read, I guess like you did, because I don't have all that information. I do know Dr. Cook personally, and she was very involved out there for many years.
Oh, yeah.
And I do know I went to bat and helped her back in the day, because District 4, she lives in my district. She stopped at my store and kind of talked to me a time or two. So then when they built the Humane Society and we expanded that, moved that animal center out there, and the fiscal court has got a very nice facility when you go around and look at the other counties.
Oh, yeah.
Probably one of the, I'm going to say the best, but really good, really nice. And they've done a tremendous job out there. Now, you got dog lovers, you got cat lovers, you got horse lovers, you got sheep lovers. Where do you stop? Where's the fine line at? You know what I'm saying? Do you take care of everything? So, do they need the extra help? I guess that's the fine line, and another $100,000 in cost. I really don't know, but I would say that they, again, how efficient are they? I'm looking at how the efficiency is, because at one time they had 2 dog wardens, I think, back when I was on the court.
Right.
So.
Right.
I do know there are a lot of those people that are volunteering time. You get less volunteers in today's world. You got people getting older. The young generation so busy in sports and kids, and you just see them dedicating their time to what I call giving up free time. So,
right.
I can't give you a direct answer on what I would say yes or no on that, because I really don't know all the details of it right now. But I definitely would tackle it and get in there and see if there's any money that can be saved for sure.
Well, Tim, we'll have to take a break to get some commercials in before the top of the hour, but is there anything we haven't asked you about that you want to touch on, that you want
I
want to
I want everybody to know that I want them to get behind me. I don't know if I can use this as a campaign thing, but I'll take the opportunity to, and you go on my Tim Hutchins campaign email, and you go 249-0816 and call me and get involved, and everybody knows where I'm at. My office is, and at the store. And I've got a lot of people calling me and getting behind this election, and we're getting ready to get geared up. And it's going to be, I think, a good positive election. And I want more people to call me and get involved, let me know what they think. It's not what I think. I mean, this is the things I can see. Is there other issues out there? I know there's a lot more than I don't know. Just fixing pipes, roads, water, drainage, and the everyday things. So I do think for many years I've heard it. My entire career it was New Haven, Bloomfield. I always felt like they were left out from fiscal court. I've heard it from, and I've helped Bloomfield when, Amos was over there. When Dan Kelly called me, we got that water grant. He called me before he called anybody. He helped him get some water. He helped Bernard get water in his district on the Bluegrass Parkway. Gap Knob, Joe Eddy was on there. And so, I just, there's a lot of probably needs out there maybe I don't know about. And I just, but I want people to call me and get involved, and I'm going to join my campaign. That's what I'm hoping, get more people to join my campaign. It's just going to be a community effort. I don't want to be a Tim Hutchins effort. I want to get people behind it. And, I'm 62 years old, and I'll probably get 2 or 3 good terms here, then maybe you can have it after I get in. So keep
Well,
everything
we're the same
going.
age, so. Well, Tim, I appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you.
And it's an exciting time to be a Republican. I think to have a 3-way primary.
It is. I think
maybe
it's
not for as a candidate, it may not be exciting.
Let me ask you a question. Is this the first time we've had a Republican primary as a judge's race? That you know of? I think we've got 20. I think we got 23 Republican candidates running different offices, which is strong.
Very strong.
And I think we got many more Republican primaries than we do Democrat primaries. Is that correct this time?
Well, I haven't really looked at the
look at it,
list,
yeah.
but I think you're right.
I think so. I
We've
mean,
had,
I'm not critical. And I told
several-
you before, there's many, many, many good Democrats out there.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd say Margie's a good Democrat. We probably disagree over a lot, but I'm saying people in general are good people. Different policies, different views. And the conservative Democrats, and that's why a lot of them are switching parties today because they see what's going on. They haven't never had the opportunity to get involved in Republican primaries, and now they do.
Right.
And there's a lot of reasons why people are switching because some of the stuff in the state and the feds, as much as anything, and the federal level. But I'm going to tell you what resonated with. I hear this pretty often. I can talk about socialism, too much taxes, and we can talk about all this stuff every day. But one thing that still resonates with people, and I hear it continuously, and I think it's why a lot of people are switching parties, and I have had a lot of them do it, is because when they abandoned our troops and our citizens in Afghanistan and left them over there, still over there, that really hit home with a lot of people, and they just don't. I mean, it's sad. I mean, I hear it. I mean, people tell me this. So
Right.
We didn't left troops there.
citizens. Let's take it back. Maybe not troops. Maybe we brought our troops home, but we left private citizens there, families there. We had allies there that helped us, and we left and there are all kinds of American citizens left there. I forget how many it was American citizens left there that they didn't get out before they brought the troops home. So I'll take that back. We didn't leave any troops there.
Right.
So I mean that's resonated with a lot of people. A lot of people. I hear it. I mean I hear it every day.
Right. All right, Tim. Well, we need to get some commercial messages
All
in.
right. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming in. And when I'm talking with Tim Hutchins, Republican candidate for Judge Executive, and you're listening to Bradford and Brooks, and we'll be right back.
What's better?